Hi, welcome to the new season of the Brady Bunch, coming at you from Studio 3C7, home of the Pussycat Dolls reunion tour, the Pillow Fight Chronicles. Zoom performance schedules coming soon. But before that, we are joined by a fantastic pair of meme-loving, NE-laced individuals from the homes of Auto Alchemy and INFX TV. We got Jeffrey and Hillary in the house.
Damn,
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Welcome to the studio.
I don't even know where to cue the intro in this. Like, at what point should the intro start?
Like, does it pop in?
Yeah, just
Wow, Nate, did you practice that? I'm actually really
I wrote it.
Okay, in that case.
Practice, in my opinion. I never write anything. That's like 10 out of 10 in my book.
Yeah, because I was starting to think something like, what the hell do we call this? And I'm like, I have no idea. So we're just gonna go with it anyway.
Pussycat doll pillow fight.
A lot of things happened. Like
3 different things going on.
Yeah, it kind of, I'm overwhelmed,
Also, I'm really glad because right now we don't have any limits on this Zoom meeting, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Feel like we can just naturally, I don't know, I'm like, there's no time slots to worry about in this case.
Right. It was pretty panicky, I felt like, during my last collaboration with you guys. Like, we were really struggling to get it in before the...
We were like, we have 2 minutes left, 2 minutes left.
Yeah, outro time.
And we were trying not to show it.
That was so stressful to reach at the end.
It's a natural transition out of this. Yeah.
I thought it was great.
So now we're going to film for 7 hours, so...
Yeah.
You laugh now, but you won't be laughing in 6
and
hours.
We will get lost into this. So right now we are joined with double the ENTP. However, my psychic cousin, the INFP, is present in this house today, and I'm pretty excited for that. So the idea was literally brought up right after our collab, Jeffrey, where we talked about how would it work out if me and Hillary were defining the functions in our own words. And seeing how you guys react in real time.
I'm curious.
Because because it came up because originally you said it was interesting hearing me and Jeffrey talk about FI because it helps you with your understanding of FI. So I was like, okay, well maybe if you guys describe TI, it would help us our understanding of TI. Why are you laughing already, Nate?
How to describe it?
Well, anyway, Nate was like, that is a terrible idea, so now we're doing it.
Awesome.
Oh, this is gonna go crazy. And as your resident Spaniard in the house, I mean, let's make it happen. So Hillary, how would you define, we'll start before, we'll get to TI last. Like, let's make it like a save the best for last.
Oh my God.
How would you define, we're gonna define them all. How do you define, let's start with that perception. How about NI? Use as many metaphors, go as wild as you can. You're in a realm of just any people, so you're cool.
I feel like I move around and I disappear. Like,
I thought you were like symbolic, but you meant like you like disappear from the video.
Literally.
Hey, I feel like, oh geez. Okay, so I've talked about NI as being a self-fulfilling prophecy before.
Yes, you have. I called it the reverse water droplet.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, because it's like, you know how when you drop something and it ripples, but when you do it in reverse, they go...
Ooh.
And then,
yeah.
And then you zoom out into the universe and you see it as a speck of dust. I don't know. They're wild. They're kooky.
It is. I mean, they're like doing this motion over and over. Like the gathering, right? But down to like a particular little nice...
There's always that question of, so what is it really? And then they always keep going on and on and on about what is it really? You know, like, well, what is it could be?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like if I'm talking to someone with NI, I can feel an agenda. I can feel the endpoint that they like want to get to.
No, you were one. Yeah, no, you're on the point with that. At least in a way, I kind of see it as comforting because at least I know, like, I can be assured that there is a thought process behind it. Because if there wasn't, they'd just tell me, because they're not really the type to just play things out. Yeah.
Right. There is something weirdly grounding about it. Where it's like they are so sure of it in a way. I think that's it. It's like they believe it so much or they see it so firmly that I'm like, it's also fun to like poke at for me. because it like is not gonna move around, and so I can like come at it from all these different ways.
Last night I
think it's
was
less
awake.
fun for them.
Well, there's the thing. Like last night I was awake and I ended up reading INFJs, and I was just like, they're usually not thinking about what's in front of them, and when they are hyper focused, they'd be staring at the wall a lot.
Oh my god!
Because they're like, "What's your opinion on INFJs?" I'm like, "Wow, it's past midnight. I'm really shameless today. It's not gonna turn out well." So yeah, reverse water droplet, but also half blind. That makes sense. You got one eye into your mind's eye, but then it kind of shuts you off from the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes with like the self-fulfilling prophecy thing of like it becomes just only whatever they wanted to see. Like whatever that their conclusion was in their mind already, they're just going to find whatever pathway will validate that.
There we go.
Right? So that kind of closes it.
All right. How about FE? Let's rip on FE.
I really like FE. I think it's a really nice compliment with FI, actually.
No, I agree. I do agree with that because it does make sense. Having had FE in my life, been told towards me has definitely changed how I've perceived a lot of my relationships. A lot of the times, like I could have fixed so many relationships if I just used FE more.
Yeah, dude. Just like fucking say about how you're feeling.
Yeah, just be honest about it and just like be done with it. Yeah. Although I did find it like a waste of time sometimes, because there's always that weird concept of FE. And JC, you've had situations with FE DOMs too, where they're like going on and on and on, and I feel like get to the point. Like we get it, we're on the same page already. Like we respect it. Come on.
Actually fleeting and like needs this amount of attention. Like things change so rapidly. I think that it's like, well, gosh, what do I actually really need to say?
Mm-hmm. If I were to compare it to something, what do you guys think? Compare FE to something.
Oh man, I don't know.
And it's very warm to me.
Okay, so I can provide a metaphor, but it's not just FE alone. But I've dated an INFJ in the past, and there's something about like third slot FE, second slot FE, and it's almost like a hall of mirrors, and it's like I'm trying to anticipate your needs, but you're trying to anticipate me anticipating your needs, and now we're no longer communicating because everything's getting lost in this reflection that goes on infinitely. And so that's what I've seen. It's like the connection is kind of lost.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, that does. Like
I don't want that.
Verbal funhouse.
Have hard pass, please.
I think stuff. I mean, you can get into patterns like that around different stuff too. But that's interesting about the second versus the third.
I mean, I kind of like dated two NI users. One was an ENFJ, one was an ESFP, and both of them were like really insecure people. So then I found that their NI, this is an unhealthy form of NI, but it came across as very like, they would assume that I had certain intentions and they would do everything they can to make sure I had those intentions, even though I didn't. But at some point they would like, like they're what, let's say they would be like, oh, you are just, I don't know, like you're just trying to use me for this one thing. And like, I literally, maybe I don't care, but like they keep pushing that to the point where I'm like, well, actually, maybe that's the only thing you're useful for, If that's what you're saying, then maybe you're right. But like, I don't know. And especially with my polar FI, I'm like, are they right? But, but like I find that the paranoid NI comes across as very, and of course, again, this is just mostly for like very unhealthy NI, which is the same case.
Well, I mean that you gave it the specificity. If you're paranoid NI, that's where the problem is. At least NI could like I don't know. Like I see, especially if you're an NI Dom, intuition shouldn't be scary. Like how for any DOMs like us, like it's not just
disappear.
I know. I gotta take a sip. Hold on.
It's like, it's like bye. Really this is her leaving the relationship.
Yeah.
Just vanishing.
Honestly, maybe Zoom is more like set to like be able to identify one person at a time for their green screen.
That is so sad. What if I identify as two people in one?
Do you?
Clearly one is taking over right now, and that's
it. Clearly. All right, okay,
there
okay.
she goes.
How about TE?
Sorry,
How do we go with TE now that we did FE?
TE.
I like to say TE is a godsend, but TE in higher stack is almost hilarious to watch because I feel like the farther your judging functions are from each other, the more difficult or the more hilarious you look from the outside perspective, if that makes sense. Because it's like you got ENTJs with baby FI, and then they're like, we know you go home and cry at night, like we get it, but you won't show it. Like we can see it in your face, but they're not going to admit it, but we get it. And we're not going to call it to your face because they're going to get mad, so whatever. And then
right, like they might really, really want to let it out, but it has to be like super safe space.
Yeah. Also, there are like ENTJs who have the most sweetest little hidden, okay, they're not called that. They're called hidden like hobbies or like little, I wouldn't say trinkets, but they have secrets that they prize themselves. And then they're like, I don't know, like they could be really into baking and not tell anybody because it's like a private thing. And then that's all they do. And it's like, let's say they're like to bake with an easy bake oven. They know it's a guilty pleasure, but because it's baby FI, they want to enjoy it. So they don't tell anybody that they're at home making a rainbow cake, right?
Yeah, it's easy like bake their thing, their personal thing, and that's it. Yeah.
Well,
right.
Actually, I do want to hear like what all of your relationships with TE are, since like, you know, Nate and Hillary, you guys both have it in your valued stack, and Jeffrey and I both have 4-dimensional unvalued TEs. I just want to hear like what it's like, especially from like Hillary, from you. I'm so curious. I mean, because Nate has talked about it a lot, and Jeffrey, I'm under the assumption that maybe it's similar, but I want to hear all of it.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd like to see what you have to say.
Yeah. But Hillary.
Okay, well, so this is interesting because I feel like I've been needing to engage my TE lately. Like I'm in the process of applying for jobs right now, and like I just moved and I just am trying to like, you know, get shit done. So I refer to TE as my TE daddy. Like I need him. Come save me.
I love it.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday.
I need my TE.
The best daddy comes from within. Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, I need to really dig down and be my own TE daddy right now.
Damn. I mean, Cthulhu is my daddy, but you know, we live.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's daddy. Like, but I think I can, it really, I feel like when I'm engaged in it, like I become very assertive and I'm like, these are the way, like, this is how we just need to get it done. You like, and I become very good at delegating and I like slip into this weird, like, planner extraordinaire kind of role.
Is it like more rigid, you would say? Like, does it pair with your SI well, do you think? I always imagine SI.
Yeah, it does. I feel like when I'm using TE, like, I'm also 9 out of 10 times using my SI.
Right. And I wasn't trying to describe SI as rigid. My FE is coming out here. But,
oh my God.
But yeah, whatever. We'll move on past that.
Well, no, because I know what you mean, though, because it can come off, like, especially because, like, how FI can view FE sometimes as rigid by being, like, asserting the value of the group, let's say, versus, like, TE asserting whatever
I mean, honestly, I think it's just that, like, if you don't value that function, you could see any other function as rigid because it's like, why are you so stuck on that thing that I don't value but you value, which makes perfect sense. But right. I think even, that,
yeah, even something like any, like maybe from an SI Downs perspective, it's like, why are you so rigid in your need for constant novelty?
Right.
Like, why can't you let go of that a little bit and back away?
That's so true.
That was wonderful.
Okay, now that you mentioned SI, I actually want to share something really interesting that I was telling Megan. It is very fascinating. So I was talking to Megan about it, and shout out to you, girl, because living life. I said that SI folks, especially high stack, they are very sensitive to reality in a way that they are the reflection of reality, and reality is a reflection of them.
Ooh, okay, wait, right? Continue. I want to hear your
physical everyday reality.
Yeah, so like for example, like day-to-day stuff, like why are they so resistant to change sometimes, or why are they so difficult? And I mean, when I say that, I'm gonna say it because I don't really care about the TI of it, but so for high stack SI, they could be concerned with a shift in a temperature in a room, for example, or they're concerned with how things are placed, because if it doesn't, it messes with their own personal homeostasis.
Right.
So
yeah.
right, so in a way, and it's like I'm using my friend as a parallel. She's an ESFJ, and like for her, her room or her home is, you enter the home and you instantly, you get the mood, you get the atmosphere, it's like dawns on you, you could feel it radiating. But then you also see her kind of allowing NE to come out because that SI comfort is there. I've kind of learned that for those with SI as the priority rather than NE, the foundation is what gives birth to creativity, whereas for us it's seeking home. Like we're like seeking a place to find it, but we'll never find it because we're like lost. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
So in a way, they are a reflection of what reality is, because if he's
we
vanished.
have a cat situation.
Is your cat an SI dog?
Oh my God, upset. What are you guys saying, huh?
Wait, what's his type?
Yeah, an SI dom.
I actually think
he's very needy boy.
Yeah, I think he's like an ESFJ or an ISFJ.
Oh.
ESFJ.
I'll win. But right, like, do you guys at least see what, like, you get what I mean though, around like what I mean, like when they say it's like a reflection. It's unlike
it's interesting too of what you say about that, because back when I did a video with Jamie, ISFJ, that's not the name of her channel, but it sounded like I was saying. Anyway, so we were talking about like SI and NE, and I told her that like the more that I really dig into SI and like use its benefits, my NE flourishes even more, which is exactly what you're saying for like an SFJ, but I feel like I do that as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say for me, my novelty chasing, and I think this is shared between like JC and Jeffrey because of our inferior SI. Like when we choose to listen at least to how our body functions and like the whispers of the hunger and sleep, it actually benefits our body more, like it benefits our mind more. I found that like when I sleep on time and I get like, let's say, it doesn't have to be on time. Let's just say I got an average of at least 7 hours. Doesn't matter when, but I got that 7 hours. There's like a significant difference that comes out as a result by the next day of how my mind feels. Like, you feel more clarity, like whatever, and you could actually take on the day, let's say the entire day. And or let's say you, instead of like ignoring being hungry or something, you'd be like, you know what, I will eat a cereal right now because I'm feeling a little out of it, to like benefit for the next hour or two so I don't like get antsy.
Okay.
And it's like such a small thing, like, but then SI doms are like
to the whole thing, which is like, I'm a college student right now, so I mean right now I'm in break, but like when I'm in school, I don't sleep, I don't eat, I don't do anything that is self-care. But like I honestly, like, because I'm inferior SI just disappeared. Okay, because I'm inferior SI, I find that I could literally even ignore the physical sensations the next day. If I have like brain fog, I could literally ignore it where it doesn't bother me at all. Like, even if I feel more tired, I could put that away, like, as though it doesn't exist, because in my mind, it doesn't necessarily exist. Right. As well as, like, a way that I describe SI a lot is too, is that they are constantly reevaluating things that have occurred. So as things happen, right when it's over, they, like, cycle through it again, and they, like, replay the memories in their head of things that just happened. So I think that's also a big reason why SI sometimes doesn't want to do something new, because if it's a bad experience, they have to process it. But for me as a SI inferior, if something bad happens and my brain, like I'm alone suddenly and my brain starts to process it, I could be like, nah, and like go do something else. Like I don't have to process anything, which could also end up with me like not remembering anything that's been happening, which is why I journal, so that I could choose which memories to process. But I don't know. I wasn't going anywhere with this necessarily, but I just like, it's an interesting parallel with what Nate was saying also with like the reflection of the environment, because I think it's also yeah, go ahead.
Well, factoring in how SE is the one that's called world rejecting, is socionics, they call it world rejecting for the SE axis.
I have a reminder.
No, I don't. Hold on, I'm getting a weird reminder moment. It's speaking to me. Oh gosh, it's alive. No. Okay. Whew. World rejecting. So SE, they react to the world, whereas if things do not go their way, they will push it with SE to change it. Right. So they're very like, they're the type of people, like you see ENFJs being like champions for trying to change things and like calling up protesting. But then SI, they call it world accepting because they're more into assimilating themselves into the environment, whether or not it's going to be an easy shift, because I don't think so, especially if you're high stack SI. But there are also not going to be the type to like let's say they lost their job, like COVID happened, right? So it's not like they're going to be, oh, I'm suddenly going to be a doctor now and fix everything. They're like, well, COVID happened, I don't have a job, I'm still going to have to take care of my house, and I'll find another job that's probably not as good as I wanted it, but it's going to get me by, so I have something to play with for the rest of the year. But they don't think in terms of, oh, I'm going to get this done in 10 months and everything's going to be done, because they don't got no NI.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't have
that with like a high stack SE then? When COVID happened, what would they do then?
Well, they get paranoid. The poor SE, they'll be like,
oh my God, because they're inferior. And
my friend, the ESTP, is like, I hate Zoom calls. Like, I just want to go out. And I felt so bad for him. Like, we were chilling over here. I'm like, we can have Zoom call parties. Like, Jack walks it up. And he's like, to be real, I don't want to do any of that.
I am with your ESTP friend. I way prefer physical.
Right? Just like drive around, do something fun.
Yeah, like I miss people.
I kind of like not having to see anyone.
No, yeah.
Like okay, on one hand, I'm way more productive when I'm like physically in school. Yes, my life revolves around school. But like when I'm physically in school, like of course I'm way more productive. But I kind of like that I don't have to think about anyone besides myself. SP Dom, everyone. Welcome to my channel.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, you're SPSO. Is that what you said in your last video, Jason?
Yeah, so is Nate.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm XSSO.
So you're what?
SXSO,
okay.
I think.
And then I don't know much about this aspect of Enneagram, but I would say probably SPSO. I don't know. Have we talked about this? I think.
Yeah, I thought you were SPSX.
Well, it might be that. Trust the expert or somebody
this
who's
is
more
nice,
of an expert than I am.
Because at least the two people down there all have SX and we don't. So at least that's nice.
I mean, yeah, our SX blindness, I'm sure, is like.
We're so accepting of it. We're like, yeah, whatever. Life's great.
No, Nate and I bet if you read like just like one little conversation between Nate and me, like our text conversations, you guys would be like, what in the SX?
There's no SX.
Like,
there's like nothing.
It's so
okay. Well, so then, what do you think it would look like if you had an element of SX in your conversation?
How would we be different if we had SX?
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
that's a good question. I would be so unstable.
Wait, explain.
So SX, well, in the realm, in the lens, in the visual 2020 optometrist eyes of an SX blind such as myself, I kind of view as a lot of SX DOMs as a little bit more unstable because it is governed by the realm of instincts, governed by the realm of magnetism, like animalistic urges almost, where they're like, I'm attracted to this. Like a lot of the choices are made by, am I attracted to it or not? Or like, does this make sense? It's not even in the realm of does it make sense to me. It's like, oh, I like it, therefore we go for it, or something like that.
It's like a magnet.
Yeah, and they almost can't help themselves. But it's also fascinating for me to watch because as an SX blind, and I like to say that I view sex from a petri dish because it's so interesting to watch people perform the peacocking, people performing.
I thought you were about to say some voyeurism. I was like,
I
was waiting. I was like, is this?
We're being scientists today.
I was like, wait, hold on.
Like for example, the game of flirting, for example, is fascinating because it's so natural to people who do not have SP, or at least who don't lead SP. Like they come off awkward, like they can be very smooth and confident about approaching others and getting that connection. And it can look very, like, while it looks raw, but it looks like natural and if that makes sense. So for a person like me watching that, it's almost like, huh? Like, it's not weird for you guys. Whereas if you see me with attempt to even try, like, let's be honest, it's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the thing for me also is if I'm like flirting with someone, if I'm like interested in someone, it always comes out through an SO sort of connection rather than SX, because SO is more about hierarchy and networking connections. So if I'm trying to flirt with someone, they probably have something that I can use for my SP, in all honesty, you know, like they have like a connection that I want, right? And I subconsciously am attracted to that through my SO. So because my SO serves my SP, right? So I'll be making this connection with someone because let's say they're like, I don't know, I'm a junior and they're a senior and they've taken classes that I'm gonna take, you know, it's just something maybe as simple as that. And I might not even consciously know I have this motive, but it's never like I just feel this attraction to this person, so I'm gonna go for it. It's even if I feel the attraction, I also need to evaluate it through my SPSO and my TI. Otherwise, I cannot do anything, which is why I end up like not pursuing like anyone.
Have you been accused of like hanging out with people only because you want something out of them?
Well, I tell them. What do you?
Yeah.
I'm like,
something we do.
We're
like, let's hang out. By the way, can I use your car? Like, it's very.
Okay. The thing is, as an SP Dom, I'm very self-sufficient, so there's not much that I usually even
need from others.
People,
yeah.
Like that I don't have, and if I need something from someone, I always make sure I give them something to trade back. You know,
it's so business.
It is. We kind of sound a little psycho, but like, you know, like it's like.
I don't think there's any shame in that. In being like, this is what I want from this. Like, what does it matter if it's like an SP thing versus an XO thing?
Right. I mean, the thing that's interesting too is that I think a lot of people do approach relationships in similar ways to both Nate and I as SPSOs, but they word it in a very different way because they approach it very differently in their mind. But like when I tell someone like, oh, all my friends are useful, you know, and then it sounds like, oh, you're using your friends. I'm like, well, they're using me too, and I'm not saying
that's what relationships are,
right? Honestly. But a lot of people are uncomfortable with the connotations that come with those kind of words, which makes sense. It's built into our language, but I don't know. It's just interesting to me that Nate and I have found this very common ground of the way that we approach even our wording and mindset towards this kind of relationships. Why are you making that face? I gotta know.
Because I can relate. Like, it literally, I once had a moment, I typed it in Discord. I'm like, why can't everybody just base their relationships off of transactions that are simple? And like, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, and then you call it a day. And then all the replies were like, ew, gross, how could you?
But I want to pose like a question back to you guys, Hillary and Jeffrey. You guys have SX. I'm wondering also, like, because Nate and I are SX blind, do you think that there's like a sort of passion or like connection that we are completely missing out on? Like, are we missing out on something big? Like,
well, I mean, I think
I gotta know.
I feel like I don't know, like if it like really feels so good to you to like have your SP things fulfilled, then I'd say you're fine. Personally, like, how am I to say?
Right.
Because so to like reverse it, like. If it were me wondering, am I missing out on SP things? I mean, probably not. Like, maybe I'm not getting the same joy that you guys do out of SP things, but I don't need that because I'm getting fulfilled in these other ways.
There we go.
I also
like a dynamic system,
right?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Nate and I also say like the only times that we ever tap into our blind function is once our first two are satisfied already. So like once our SP and SO needs are like fulfilled for that moment at least, then we can tap into our SX. If we have this attraction, we can go for it. Do you?
Yeah, it's almost like waiting for permission, even to like let ourselves enjoy.
You don't get that with your SP ever or anything? No. Okay.
I don't think so.
No. And see, I feel like I can't even fully answer because I'm so out of like the loop on this particular language. But from what I can tell, I don't think, maybe there's like a degree to which I feel like, first of all, I need to have like my self-oriented needs taken care of. And then I guess, is it fair to say that SX is more like one-on-one, intimate kind of, and then like I get that. And then maybe I guess I become more concerned about like, playing the game and having like the hierarchical ladder climbing. But I mean, there is a part of me that is drawn to that, but I think it is maybe like the last thing I would turn to.
Well, social blind is another interesting blind spot that we actually don't even discuss as often. Like I remember
it was SO blind, Nate. I don't even know. I honestly don't know if I don't know my second.
Well, a lot of social blinds, they congregate a lot of the introverted, maybe that's the wrong choice of words. They congregate in places where people don't care about reputation, where people don't care about how many people you know or who are the people that you know. They don't care about that kind of stuff. To them, if a celebrity walked down the street, they're like, you're just another human being to me.
Okay, I feel that way. That's
very level of social blind in a sense. Like, let's say if a famous celebrity walked into your room and be like, hey, can you get something for me? The instant vibe isn't to be like instantly know where you stand with them. It was to be like, oh, okay, I'll pass you a water. Like, you're just a human. You just a meat bag. You breathe. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right? Okay, I really relate to
people
that.
with more SO, then we're like trying to measure like it's kind of similar to SX in that like you're kind of trying to measure relational distance, but it's in a different way because SX is more instantaneous, SO is more ongoing.
Yeah. And a lot of the descriptions for SX actually are belonging in SO.
Right.
Like connections is actually very social rather than SX even. Social is like the community, belonging, like the feeling that you want to belong somewhere.
The dissonance between like reading actual like theory and literature on like instincts versus like the stuff that people come up with just like in blogs and stuff, which are really interesting and insightful, but like a lot of times they're like fundamentally wrong. And I don't want to just throw that around, and I'm not going to quote any specific ones, obviously, but like, like there's some where it's just like I actually thought I was an SX Dom at first when I first started reading up on Enneagram, because I didn't go to the books. I went to like blogs because they're more accessible, and it was just like SX Doms are intense when they want something, and I was like, ooh, that's me. But like I'm intense when I want something for my SP.
For your SP thing, yeah.
Not for SX, and it was like, oh, I could be intense with people. I'm like, but only when I want something from
right. Yeah, that's something that's like really personally infuriating to me, I guess, about typology in general. It's like maybe one person reads a book, they pluck out something, but that thing that they're plucking out is getting filtered through the prism of their own psyche,
their own little experience,
and then they shit that out onto a blog, and then that like perpetuates itself, and then the same process happens again and again.
Well,
I mean, I used to think I was SX too.
Blogs, and then they write something from that, so it's like primary literature, second, tertiary, etc. But like, okay, Nate and I talk about this too. It's like it's fine to share your thoughts and your experiences and all these types, but you can't act as though you're an authority if you haven't read any theory.
Right.
Like you haven't read the foundation.
If it's your own system, you can do that because there's the theory. You're the theory. But if it's not your system, as for respect for the system and theory, you should actually read a little bit.
Read it before you rip it.
At
right?
least a little bit, like just a little bit. And like this is like my consume coming out. I'm like, read.
It's funny because, well, I'll share my experience. Like I used to think I was an SX7 because it was described as the adrenaline seeking, action oriented, risk taking 7. And I was like, oh, I would love to bungee jump. Like I'm very big on putting myself out there. Like I want a canoe. I'm doing all that kind of stuff. I do the roller coaster gigs. So people like assume that, oh, this guy is like an adrenaline junkie, because the truth is I am. But it's actually not SX at all, nor in the lens of a sexual 7, which is the realm is more in the mind. Like for them, it's the reformation and everything is very mental, and it's very, they're in love with love is the kind of what a sexual 7 looks like. They are very like, oh, I would want to be with this person, and they idealize it and blah, blah, blah. And Kat, shout out to Kat if she's listening. She was like, for an ENFP who's always telling people the shop is closed, how are you an SX Dom? And I was like, oh, that's right. I'm like, I always like put up a sign on me like, nope, nobody, sorry, bye. Like I'm always quick to like, because I am busy trying to do the race car moment. I don't have time to like showcase myself to other people and need the whole thing. Like,
I feel like this is actually how I realized I was an XS Dom, is like, if you're presented with an activity of each 3 things, which one will you choose like over and over, or at least more often? And it's like, I always want to put my SP things first, but I don't. I like if I'm given a choice, if I say I'm going to do this thing and it's an SP thing and it's just for me and blah blah blah, and then someone comes to me and is like, oh hey, well, do you want to go like grab a drink?
Right.
I'm like, yes.
Right.
Oh my god, I'm abandoning whatever. Yeah, like.
Right. I think that's totally a good way of looking at it, and I think that applies to just any like kind of preference set dichotomy.
Yeah, like what are you willing to abandon?
Like I might be like, oh man, the SI stuff is so cool. Like I would love to be so great at this, but damn, I gotta do this.
Right.
The NE is way too tempting.
Right.
You know, it takes you off track.
That's true. I think a lot of people view these dichotomies also as like it's either this or that, but it's like it's not. Like especially like this one was an interesting one. Like the most common mistype I get, which I don't get mistyped often, but the most common one is ENTJ, which is really funny because my NE is so obvious. But they say ENTJ because I'm a 3, and I actually follow through. Yeah, so I actually do stuff, unlike some more stereotypical ENTPs, right? So like, but then it's like just because I tap into my TE, like quote unquote, well, doesn't mean that I value it. I have 4-dimensional TE. It's just like unvalued. I prefer my NE, TI, etc. over TE, but like I will use my TE to do stuff, but it doesn't mean that I'm an ENTJ suddenly.
Right.
Which would
you just see me try to engage with the FE and people start calling me an ESFJ. It's like, wow, you're so good at facilitating conversation. Yeah. And I'm like, honestly, I could destroy this room if I wanted it. I mean, because I don't care about the FE. Right. People are like, oh, you're an ESFJ.
NE too can seem like very like facilitative. NE can look like FE sometimes.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, by the definition of, or going on the system of socio with this, like with how I am with, like, allowing people to be their authentic self and letting them be blah, blah, blah. I'm like, great, yeah, but at the end of the day, none of those things I care about. Like, you could choose whether you want to show me who you are or not. That's not my concern. My concern is what I want out of you. Like, it's as honest as I can go with that. And if it means playing with my FE to get a reaction out of you just to get that, what I want, then so be it. So people like mistake that when I'm being that FE self, and it's like, oh, this guy's being all charismatic and letting us be ourselves. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a motive. I'm being honest.
What's your motive? Or does it change depending on the person you're
It shifts. It absolutely shifts. With creative FI, it really depends on the person that I'm interacting with. In the group setting, it's actually harder for me because I have to take into account every individual's unique preferences, and that can be stressful.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, you like this, but you like that, but I don't actually have the FE consciously to just be like, no, we're gonna decide on this. I'm gonna consider everybody's. So it's already gonna be ridiculous.
Okay. This is something interesting. I want to hear what you two have to say about this. So Nate texted me once about like FI versus FE in like a group setting, right? So let's say us 4, we want to go out to eat, right?
Oh
like,
God, yes, please.
What should we eat? And then like I'm like, I don't know, I want to go eat some, Korean barbecue. I'm vegetarian, but besides that, like, I want to eat some Korean barbecue. And then Nate is like, Nate is an high FI user, and he's like, well, for me to be honest and be my most authentic self right now, I'm going to tell you, I actually want to go to Taco Bell, right? And it's like, okay, so then at that point, do we listen to the person who's being their most authentic self by taking away all of our choices, which was not Taco Bell, and following him? Or do we meet the group decision, or do we tell him to go alone? Like, what happens at that point? Because Nate was being honest with his feelings.
Ooh, I know how I would solve it.
I think I have some inklings as to what I would do. Yeah, maybe they will be. So for me, I guess I would want to hear like what was his second most authentic choice, his third. Like I would still try to seek some kind of like optimal arrangement that would make everybody happy, but maybe I would try to like use the person who's being the sticking point as like the thing to bounce off of. Like, okay, well let's like move down your hierarchy of preferences. Like, okay, is there anything here at level 2 that would be acceptable for everyone? Is there anything at level 3? If not, and then I mean, I guess to be after like 2 or 3 levels, I really suck it out because like I really do hate it when people get like so fixated on like my way or the highway.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, to me, it's like a stick in the mud too. Just like, yeah, right, you were saying of like, Yeah, for me, yeah, I have Dom FI, but I'm like, if I'm in a group setting and I'm the only one that doesn't want what everyone does, like, too bad. Find something on the menu. Like, it doesn't matter. You're here, like, with your group, and that's the main focus. But if I had to come up with some kind of solution, it would be like, okay, everybody like has the place that they want to go, and then somehow you randomly generate a number like 1 through 10, and then you go through and you point to everybody wherever it lands on whatever your number was. That's where you're going.
Oh, so you guys all go based on like one person?
Based on, yeah, so whatever that person wanted, that's where you end up, and it's just this random number is deciding it. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I guess I was assuming in the scenario though that like the person who's being stubborn just wouldn't play ball, right?
Oh,
interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, assuming that I'm the stubborn one in this situation.
Itself I mean, Nate is like, yo, if we don't go to Taco Bell, I'm gonna like go back to wherever you're from, Latin America.
Well, here's the thing though. I know a lot of folks with a lot of really strong masculine FI. And like,
wait, repeat your sentence because I'm gonna cut that because I don't want to. Go ahead. Just go ahead. My FP is like.
Okay. Let me repeat it. So I know I have quite a few friends as well who are of masculine FI. So while they won't voice out that as much as I would probably be like, oh, but I'm craving this, but I'm okay with taking anything. They will not tell you what they want, but they will not order at the restaurant you went to. They will go to the one next to it, or they would order it on their own time. And then they would bring it into the restaurant.
So angry. It's so passive aggressive. I'm like, if you don't want to eat here, say it.
Actually, I think though that there's like a seed of a good solution in there.
Food court.
Well, yeah, something like that.
No, but if they didn't discuss it, I feel like it's more passive aggressive.
Right, totally.
Yes,
but like more metaphorically as like a food court, maybe it's like, oh, we're gonna go in this general area and we'll all go like get food to go, and then we will like
go to a park. Yeah, exactly.
My goodness. Okay, my ESFJ friend always does that. We were kind of disagreeing, and he's like, "We'll go to this area, get your food, we'll meet here."
I'm like, yeah, I do love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
it does
like
help.
Perfect.
Yeah.
My friend takes a little bit further because she likes to do seat arrangements. Now that can be a little it would ruffle some feathers. I know it will ruffle some feathers if I know, but I haven't explained. She has a TI reason why she does this. Okay.
Wait, what's
actually rooted
ESFJ?
in her. She's an ESFJ. She has masculine SI, but it's rooted. Here's the thing. Hold on. It's rooted in the productivity of the people involved in the group. The maximum way of keeping conversation going.
Yeah,
she has known the formula to the T. So even if you argue
hold up. Okay, yes, but think of how presumptive that is for the FE Dom to see that they
it is
out of everyone when it's actually they want to make sure their FE and SI are comfortable, but it's about them, even though they think it's about everyone. So okay. Back to unhealthy ENFJ guy that I kind of dated. He would always assume that I am feeling a certain way. He's like, "Why are you so sad?" I'm like, "I'm not sad, like, why are you so upset?" It was like mild gaslighting situation, but I was like, what? I'm not. But like that I find can come out with, again, unhealthy FE, not all FE, obviously, but unhealthy FE can be very like presumptive. And I'm not saying your ESFJ friend is unhealthy FE, but that's an interesting example that you showed or you shared.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good. I mean, I have masculine SI too, so you can get how hilarious that is. One of my biggest arguments was like the washing hands situation. I like threw down because I was like, I already did. She's like, I didn't see it. We're like, oh, you want to wash it? Really? We'll get a hose right now, girl.
She like made you wash your hands again because she didn't see you wash your hands.
And that is where our collaboration with Hillary and Jeffrey part 1 is going to end. We recorded for a while actually, so the next episode, episode 21, will feature Hillary and Jeffrey again with our part 2 of our collaboration with them. If you want to figure out what happens with the ESFJ and etc. and want to see our NE and everything just bouncing off of each other and everything, then come back for the next one, and we will see you on Thursday. Bye.